So, my parents didn't want me. Their solution to the problem was to send me away to live with my uncle. They didn't think that, I would flourish. They thought I was useless, but the joke's on them. Because years later, I see that I've made it, and so do they. Well, you know what? They've come to me now asking for help, and you want to know what my uncle told them? It's going to make you wonder, why would they ever tell me to leave? Maybe I'm the wrong one in the situation, that's what everyone's saying, but I have to stick to my decision. Besides my family's bias, because most of them suck up to my parents, they have only heard one side of the story, the one where I'm ungrateful of a daughter, and no one really knows my side of things. I don't even have the energy to explain to them. What if it'll all be for nothing? With that being said, I don't know how to navigate. I need your help with setting boundaries with my family so I can have the wedding that I deserve. I can't let them ruin what's supposed to be the happiest day of my life by letting my father walk me down the aisle. Yes, you read it right. I don't want my bio father to walk me down the aisle because he does not deserve me. Is this person who walks you down the aisle not supposed to be your dad who raised you and supported you? My dad did none of that and now is shocked by the decision I made. You must be wondering what he did that was so bad. You have no idea. It all started when I was a teen. For context, I'm 25 female, and I'm in the middle of being a middle child. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and I was always a good kid growing up. But my parents never paid attention to me. They were very focused on making sure that my brother did well in school and succeeded in his career, and taking care of my younger sister. I was forgotten and treated like I did not exist. Well, when I became a teen dealing with new emotions, peer pressure, and trouble figuring myself out, I needed them the most. I tried to speak to them, but my words fell on deaf ears. My schoolwork suffered, and I began to get depressed. Worst of all, I did not really have friends. That's when I fell in love with the wrong crowd. To this day, I still think those people are the reason I'm still alive. Even though we got up to terrible things, with them, I was actually happy and it felt like I mattered. Most of us had messed up home situations and were pretty convinced that we were also getting to be messed up. With them, I was happy and I did everything they asked. Unfortunately, we got up to no good and got into trouble at school. The worst part? My parents ignored the countless times the school tried to tell them what was going on with me. They kept on postponing the meetings, and when they heard I had done something bad, they just told me to behave and then forgot about me. It was no surprise when my misdemeanors got completely out of control. And, out of control. Anyways, I was expelled from school, and that was when they finally paid attention. I'd been crying for help for so long, but they simply did not hear it. The school counselor told them that she tried to fight for me to not to get expelled, but I was out of control. She told them that they needed to get me professional help, otherwise I would end up in jail. Or worse. See, I was about to turn 17 when all of this happened. I was keeping grades good enough to graduate, but very close to failing. The main concern was the things we got up to. We would prank teachers, and indulge in substances and got up to worse outside of school. Worst of all, I was dating someone I had no business dealing with, and I was utterly blinded by love. When they realized the gravity of what was going on, they were horrified. I got the biggest screaming match of my life, which did not even faze me. At this point, I could feel nothing. I need them to say something for so long, but when they finally said it, it didn't matter. They were supposed to get me help and enroll me in a new school, but guess what they did? They decided to make me someone else's problem and send me to stay with my uncle Stefan. My uncle stayed in the middle of nowhere and kept to himself, and I did not know him much except he used to have a high-ranking position inside of the military. My parents felt that he was the best person to tame me and set me straight because they were clearly failing. It was just like them to not want to work through a problem but to delegate it to someone else. And just like that, I was shipped to go and stay with him. My uncle and I had a very difficult relationship in the beginning. I tried to fall back into my old ways, but he was having none of it. See, it was my first time getting a curfew and being punished for not obeying the rules. This man took no nonsense at all, and I hated him for it. But you know what they say. When I start to obey his rules and get my life in order, I started to see a different side to him. He could be caring, kind, and supportive, and when I got into sports, he bought me all the necessary kits, even though they cost a lot. If I needed anything for school, he would get it for me no matter how much it cost. If he did not have the money, then he would make a plan. He was there for every match, every meeting, every good day and bad, and he was not much of a talker. He was more into action, and when I moved, I had to redo a year, which I was so upset about, but in the end, it helped me repair my GPA. I graduated salutatorian and got accepted into a top college where I graduated in record time. My college years were spent buried in books, making connections and with absolutely no dating or partying, depriving myself of the paid off in the end when I graduated top of my class. I'm now a systems engineer and getting married to the love of my life, Paul, who's an Italian art gallery owner. Remind me to tell you how we met if I post an update. Wedding preparations has been going well, but I hit a snag. I went to visit my parents to give them the wedding invite and discuss the logistics for the wedding. I've maintained a cordial relationship with them over the years, and I've tried to forget what they did to me. Of course, they were going to be at my wedding as guests, and when I was discussing the wedding, my father then asked if we did not need to practice the walk when he gave me away. I asked why would he be the one giving me away when my uncle was going to do it. My uncle's taken on the fatherly role in everything. My dad has never stood up. I was shocked that he wanted to step up now. He actually acted offended and said of course he would want to give me away. I told him that I already asked my uncle. Besides, Paul had asked my uncle for the blessing to marry me. My dad's face changed as he realized what happened. Then he said that my uncle was overstepping. He was not my bio dad, so why was he doing so much? He told me to allow his brother to pressure me. I gently told my dad that it was my personal choice. My mom asked if I was mad. My father was alive and could walk me down the aisle, and both of them looked at me like I was crazy. They had to be joking with me, and I told my dad that with all due respect, my uncle had been more of a father to me than he was. He gave me away when I was 17. That's when he lost his right to be a dad. He was shell-shocked and offended and started arguing with me just like that. The argument led nowhere and nobody wanted to yield, and worst of all, they told some family members who had the nerve to message me and tell me that I was hurt his feelings. I did not intend to hurt him, but I'm uncomfortable with them walking me down the aisle because, someone else deserves it. It's as simple as that, and I don't know why people are making such a big darn deal about it. What would you do? Update number 1, 2 weeks later. Hey, I just got back from my parents' town and I'm tired. I still have so much to do, but I can't seem to focus on anything. I'll resume all my tasks and try to rest today. I decided to quickly give you a rundown of all that happened since my post, and first of all, thank you for the comments and insights. After much thinking and discussion with my fiancé, I decided not to allow my dad to walk me down the aisle. I might have half his DNA, but he's not a father. My uncle is the perfect definition of a good father. He's done so much for me and supported me in everything, and I would not be here today without him. Therefore, he deserves the honor of giving me away. I had to break this news to my parents, and as you can imagine, they were not happy when I told them that my choice was final. My dad was particularly hurt, and made sure I knew that. I would have never imagined that he could be a petty, childish person, and if he really wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle, then why does he not wait for Petra, my younger sister, to get married? He's acting like it's such a big deal. Basically, he's been harassing my uncle and also spreading rumors about him. He claims that my uncle used some brainwashing techniques on me. In addition, he claims that my uncle mistreated me in the years I've lived with him. His evidence is the time I called him crying because uncle would not let me go to the mall without cleaning my room. Is that the definition of mistreating a child? I was literally impossible to live with back then and complained at every turn. But that man never mistreated me. Even when I challenged him, he made sure I had all my basic needs. I was never starved, deprived of sleep, or prevented from attending extracurriculars, no matter how terrible I was. I don't know where my father got all this information, that my uncle did that to me. My father is spreading a false narrative that I have some Stockholm syndrome. To make matters worse, he's blaming himself for not stepping up, which is why this happened. Of course, he would find a way to make this about him. Now that his, family pities him. Worst of all, some of my friends heard about this and they've started to think that my uncle is terrible. I've assured them that he's always treated me well, but some of my friends do not believe it. While all of this was happening, I got a message. I got a message from my uncle saying that he would not walk me down the aisle. That's when I decided to cut my trip short and go straight to his home. It was hard, but I finally got him to talk. Apparently, he's been receiving threats from my dad and some family members. He hates that he's causing so much drama and does not want to ruin my day, so he decided to step down. I was livid when I found out how far my dad was going to bully my uncle. I told my uncle that no such thing would happen, but he's adamant. There's no way that I'm walking down the aisle with my dad. I would rather not get married at all. All I have to do is find a way to fix all this and sort my day out. Well, time to bring out the old troublemaker inside of me, who knew just how to deal with people who wanted to interrupt my plans. Update number 2, 1 month later. Hey y'all, I just wanted to quickly let you know that I'm okay and thank you for the thoughtful comments. I feel much better now and less anxious. I was very upset and anxious because of what my dad did, and I could hardly think because of it. Thankfully, I have sorted everything out and have been setting a trap for my dad and everyone who dared to support him when he was bullying my uncle. I started with waiting a couple days before calling Dad. I told him that I was going to allow him to walk me down the aisle for the sake of peace. In addition, it was his right even though we were not the best of terms for years. I made sure to act like I really did not want to, but what he did give me a new perspective. I wanted him to think that I was scared of him for bullies feed on that. He was very proud of me and said he was glad that I saw reason. If he had put aside his pride for a second, he would have been suspicious of how easily I yielded. I told him that either way, my uncle said it was the right thing to do, and I respected my uncle a lot to go against his wishes. My father was on top of the world, thinking that he had won against everyone else. This whole month I've allowed them to celebrate the plan, the wedding along with me, not knowing what I had in mind. Everything only came to light on wedding day, which was very eventful. See, I only had my friends in my bridal party, so none of my family saw me in the 2 days leading up to the wedding. This was the perfect cover for me to do what I wanted. Once everything was ready, I waited patiently for my wedding, and I was not disappointed. My wedding went perfectly. I had no complaints, and in addition, my uncle walked me down the aisle as part of the plan. But how did he walk me down the aisle, you must be wondering? How was there no drama at the wedding day from Dad or my family since they were so opposed? Well, that's because they were thousands of miles away. The whole time I've been planning 2 weddings, one real one and one fake one. It was my husband's plan. My plan had been to uninvite them the day before and still have the wedding at the same venue with extra security. Alas, Paul wanted something with a little more flair, and since he was footing the bill, I went ahead with it. When my parents and extended family went to the venue, they were met with an empty venue. There was no bride or groom in sight, and when they asked around, they were given a tablet which was live streaming me walking down the aisle with Uncle by my side. As my wish, I paid one of the employees at the fake wedding to film my dad's reaction, and he did not disappoint. My dad smashed the tablets into the ground and started screaming at everyone to tell him where I was. He said that he was my father and had to be the one to walk me down the aisle. They had to drag him out of there kicking and screaming, and he proceeded to leave me dozens of messages, threatening violence, of course, against Uncle for manipulating me. Meanwhile, he kept on telling me that I was so weak as to only be easily manipulated. He said it was his fault I had grown up to be so selfish. Could I not see that he was trying to make things between us right, but I was making things difficult, huh? He told me that if I could just call him and tell him where I was, he would forget where I was. If I did not value my life, I would have told him where I was. I didn't even switch on my phone until the day after the wedding. By then, we had already flown to Rome, where we could be having our vacay. This is coincidentally where we met when I was doing my internship. I keep on promising to tell you how we met, but I forget. The next update will be about how we met. If you're interested, it's actually a sweet romantic story. Update number 2. Hey guys, let's get into it. I know I said that I would tell you my love story, and I promise I will, but not before I tell you what just happened. My father has reached an all-time low. Forget the fact that I said I've forgiven my dad. I don't want anything to do with him. He and my mother can respectfully go to HE double hockey stick. Because wow, Paul and I are still going to be in Italy for another month, and we're enjoying our honeymoon. Guess who decides to contact him and tell him everything about my past because I was ignoring messages? I have no desire to deal with Mom and Dad's nagging. I don't want them to ruin my experience, so I've distanced myself from them. It seems that my ignoring them was only angering them more. They must have wondered what audacity I had to be happy while they were embarrassed by what happened. So they decided to pay me back. By embarrassing me. They sent my husband a long message telling him all about my past and the things that I did. They had no right to do that, and I know that they only did it to try to ruin my life. Little did they know that Paul knew everything. Every single detail. I told him the truth about me right before we started dating when I was interested in Italy, which is where we met. I had no interest in dating anyone, and trauma dumping usually worked like magic in getting men anyways. It did not work on him, and we're still very much together. In fact, to further irk my parents, we posted some pictures and videos we have taken over the years leading up to this point, captioning them, "Love your perfection and imperfections." We made sure that at least 2 people who knew my parents saw them. I knew they would immediately tell my parents what they saw. I think I've been called every single name under the sun by my parents by now. They've been relentless in trying to make me out to be a bad person. It got even better when my husband became fed up and shouted at him. I was just minding my own business, getting ready to run, when I heard him shouting. He hardly shouts unless someone's really being difficult, so I knew something big was happening. When I got to him, he was shouting at someone on the phone and, telling them that they were failures as parents and hardly supported me. Why were they trying to ruin my life now? They could never take credit for raising me because they did such a terrible job at it. He then told them that I was his wife and he would protect me with everything in him. If they wanted to go up against them, then they had to ask about his reputation. He was not just sweet, but fiercely protective over the people and things he loved. He was not wrong. He's a sweetheart at home, but ruthless when it comes to business. Seeing those 2 sides of him makes me believe the duality can exist perfectly within a person. Standing there and watching him tell my parents facts was honestly very satisfying. How dare they try to ruin my honeymoon? Final update, 2 months later. Hello again. I hope that you guys are doing well and don't mind reading a little bit about my honeymoon. It must have been boring though. I've heard more epic love stories, but I still prefer mine every single day. Okay, enough of these sappiness. Let me just get to the reason why I'm writing it. After my parents tried to ruin my relationship, we blocked them everywhere. The call from my husband also seemed to make them go quiet, and they were not dumb. My husband has connections and could have ruined their lives, and the only reason he did not was out of respect for the fact that they were my bio parents. Either way, we continued our beautiful honeymoon and did not want it to end, but alas, we had to go back to reality. My job's demanding and so is his, therefore we had to go back to our house. Before getting married, we finalized the sale of our first house together. We spent the past couple of months settling in and decorating. Well, as it happens, when one is minding their business, I was interrupted. My uncle visited one day and told me that his brother had called him. I love it when karma works fast. It appears that my dad got retrenched and is having issues getting his retirement fund. It appears that he and his mom are living hand to mouth because their savings are fast running dry. They've been begging for help from various family members who have all given excuses as to why they don't want to help. I hope that they've learned something from this, Well, anyways, just because someone supports you in nonsense does not mean that they'll be with you in dark times. In addition to that, they've been able to show their faces after the embarrassment at the wedding. Well. Every single person, and I mean every single person, has been talking about them and what terrible parents they must be for me to not invite them. I asked why they did not ask my brother to help them since they loved him oh so much. My uncle said that of course my brother would not help. He's not helped since he got married 2 years ago. Oh, I didn't tell you. After my parents took care of him for years, he moved overseas and got married and has not seen them since. He's also barely talking to them and has not done anything to help. Seems like all the attention they paid him helped. I, on the other hand, have done things for them over the years. But now that they have shown how ungrateful they are, I'm not going to do a single thing for them. I have no idea why they even thought to ask my uncle to talk to me. Anyways, my uncle went and told my dad exactly what I said, and they tried to plead as expected, but frankly, we're tired of their nonsense. If they dare to contact me again, you best believe that I'm going to make them regret it. I want nothing more to do with them and to just enjoy my wedding.